So far, we have gone over 3 methods of how to solve a quadratic. We factored, we square rooted, we did completing the square, and this is your 4th one, quadratic formula. So quadratic formula requires that your equation look like this, with everything on one side equals 0. So the first step in the quadratic formula is to move everything to one side and get it equal to 0, just like we did with factoring. A is the coefficient in front of x squared. B is the coefficient of x. And C is the constant. So when we go to do our quadratic formula, it's always going to start off with x equals. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this is a formula that will solve any quadratic. Okay? It's not always the easiest thing to use, but it's one that always works. So you guys have to have this formula memorized. Yes. So one of the easiest things that I've done in the past with students that helps them memorize is put it to a song. Yeah. All right. How many of you guys know the song "Pop Goes the Weasel"? Okay. Some people, I might be able to find it somewhere else to a different tune. That's just the one that I know the best. So, did you guys know? So, how does "Pop Goes the Weasel" go? Yeah. Okay. So, this is how you can match it up. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Okay.
Okay, hey, it works. I always find it extremely funny, but yet it makes me happy during the test when people are humming, because it means I know that you know your formula. Okay, so here is your potential extra credit. By Friday, if you can say this to me or sing it, I'll take either way. I'll do either one. I will give you 5 points extra credit, which is so that's a homework assignment. So when can you come in and do it? You can do it during class. Or you can come in at lunch on Friday. Those would be the 2 times. So lunch or in class. Okay? You don't have to. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying you have to have it memorized. But those would be your 2 options. William.
Can I do that tomorrow after school?
Yeah. Okay. So, everything we're doing today is just practicing plugging numbers into the formula and simplifying it. That's all there is to quadratic formula. It's what I call plug and chug. You just plug in numbers and simplify to get an answer. There's no real other work involved. So again, the key thing that you want to write over here is that it must be equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, it has to be equal to 0 before you can start the quadratic formula.
So this works with any of the...
It'll work with anything. If something can factor, this will still work. If something can be the...
before.
Huh?
Why don't we just learn this
Because it's
before?
not the most convenient. And we're actually going to talk about that next week. When is the best time to use each method? Because sometimes if it's factorable, this is way too long and tedious. Sometimes it's the best option because it is the easiest. So we're going to talk about those differences next week. All right, so we're going to solve for x using the quadratic formula. So again, these are still x-intercepts. That part isn't changing. We're just another method to find them. So the first thing you want to do is identify A, B, and C. So in number 1, what is A?
X. Or 1.
Remember, it's the number in front of x squared. So our A is 1. What's our B? -2. So there's our B right there. Where is our C? -8. So x equals negative B. So B is -2. Plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4A C, so 1 and -8. I never make my radical long enough. All over 2 times A, or 2 times 1. Okay, now's the fun part where we get to simplify it. So, what do we have out front here? We have 2 negatives which make positive, so this will become +2. What's -2 squared? +4. Now what's -4 times 1 times -8?
Or wouldn't the square root cancel?
No, because of the other stuff in there. If it was just that, then yes, but because of all the other stuff, no. Order of operations, we got to do that inside first. So what's -4 times 1 times -8? +32. So we'll have a +32 all over 2. So 2 plus or minus the square root of 36 all over 2. Can we take the square root of 36? Yeah, so 2 plus or minus 6 over 2. Now we can actually simplify this further because our radicals are all gone. So just like before, how we would do 2 plus 6 and 2 minus 6, we got to separate it. So we're going to have 2 plus 6 over 2 and 2 minus 6 over 2. 2 plus 6 is 8 over 2, which is 4. 2 minus 6 is -4 over 2, which is -4, not -2. Okay. Now, when this happens where you get nice whole numbers, that means you could have factored it and done it a lot quicker. This is why quadratic formula isn't always the best. It always works, but it's not always the best. Okay? On the homework though, for 11.4, I want you to use quadratic formula just to get the practice, and we'll look at next week how to tell the difference between which one. Okay, any questions on the quadratic formula at this point?
So nobody can help me to bring it back. Nope. Can I just do number 3 instead of the other two?
There might be a reason why I have 4.
I know, that's fine.
So that's why I'm hesitant to skip one. I'm trying to remember what the answers are. Okay, so let's do number 2. Okay, so what's our A?
4.
4. What's our B? 7. What's our C?
-15.
-15. Okay. So we have x equals negative b, 7, plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times negative 15 all over 2 times 4. So negative 7 plus or minus 7 squared is 49. Let's see. Negative 4 times 4 is 16 times negative 15 gives us 240 all over 8. So we get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 289 all over 8. $289 is a perfect square. Anyone know what the square root of 289 is?
19.
Close.
18.
Higher.
21.
Lower.
18.
Lower.
17.
17. So then we get negative 7 plus 17 over 8 and negative 7 minus 17 over 8. So here we'll get 10 over 8, which reduces to 5 over 4. So there's one answer. And then 7 and 17. This will give us negative 24 over 8, which is negative 3. Okay, on number 3, how would we start that one? Okay, this one's not equal to 0, so we do have to move that 110 to the other side before we do our A, B, and C. So what is A?
3.
3. What is B?
Negative 41.
Negative 41. And what is C?
110.
110. So negative 41 plus or minus the square root of negative 41 squared minus 4 times 3 times 110 all over 2 times 3. Two negatives make a positive. Let's see, negative 41 squared is 1,681. And we have 4 times 3 times 110 will be negative 1320 all over 6. So we get 41 plus or minus the square root of 361 all over 6. Okay, can we break down 361 at all? So can you think of a number that goes into 361?
7.
No,
3.
no,
13.
no.
27.
19. It's actually a perfect square. It's 19 times 19.
Should have told me that.
I was trying to see if you would figure it out.
Nice guys and odd numbers.
Okay, so we have, again, a perfect square. So 41 plus 19 over 6, and 41 minus 19 over 6. So 41 plus 19 is 60, over 6 is 10, so that's one answer. 41 minus 19 is 22 over 6, which reduces to 11 over 3. Okay, questions so far? Would you want to do this all the time? This is why we don't show it to you all the time, or at the beginning. This is partly why we show it to you last, because this is the one, like I said, it works no matter what, but it's not the easiest to use all the time. All right, last one. What's A?
5.
5. What's B? What's C? All right. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So let's see. We get negative 13 plus or minus, what's 13 squared?
169.
Good, 169. Now negative 4 times 5 times negative 1 plus 20 all over 10. So this gives us negative 13 plus or minus the square root of 189 all over 10. So how can we break down 189? This one's not perfect. 6 does not go into it. 3 does. Let's see, 3 goes into it 63 times. How can we break down 63? 9 and 7. And what about 9? 3 and 3. So what do I have a pair of? We have a pair of 3's. So we'll have negative 13 plus or minus 3 square root, multiply the two things that didn't pair up, so that's 21, all over 10. This is how we'll leave our answers when they're not perfect squares. Simplify the radical and then just leave it as the fraction. Any questions on the quadratic formula?